Here we go.
Fantastic. Here we are. Welcome, everybody, wherever you are in the country, from all over, grey and windy, some crisp, sunny skies. It's January the 6th, and this is our weekly Live Well Live webinar. Today, we're talking all about mindset and how important it is to look at our mindset, to really reflect on our mindset when we go on this journey of weight loss and really looking to benefit our health. My name is Dr. Samantha Weller-Pilley. I am a GP. I'm also a empowerment coach. I'm a yoga therapist and a meditation teacher. I'm a GP here at Boots Online Doctor and part of the lifestyle medicine team here. And I'm joined as ever by Ruth Taylor, who is going to say hello also.
Oh, hi everyone. Sam, I think you should just say I'm a guru, really, because
Oh, crumbs.
that always feels like that when I hear how amazing you are and know how amazing you are. Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with the Boots Online Doctor Service, part of the lifestyle medicine team, but also a registered nurse. So you might see me occasionally on messages, and also a health and wellness coach. And really, we absolutely love this series of webinars that we've created for you. And we know that if you come along and you follow the advice, it's very simple advice, it's very evidence-based advice. There are no real sort of surprises. It's not really teaching you anything that you might not have heard before, but it's really, really about getting you on track and keeping you on track so that this is for you your sort of really successful weight loss journey. We want this to be the journey where you lose weight and you don't regain it. And this is really why we're here, because we are really passionate that we can help you and make a difference for your long-term health and your long-term weight. So we'd love to know what you'd like to know from us. If you've brought questions along, please do pop them into the Q&A box if you can. That would be really helpful because then we can find them at the end of the slide share as quickly as we possibly can. We always share some slides with you around the topic of the week, just to really get you thinking. We want to get you thinking. I think that's a really key thing. And we want to inspire you to make the changes on this journey that are going to be really helpful to you in the long run. So this is why we're here. And we've got a few polls. The polls are completely anonymous, so we know whether people are answering and what the type of answers that they're answering, but we don't know who is answering. And really, we just want to support you in any way we can. We are building the range of webinars. We've got a list of new webinars that we're thinking of creating. So if there are any topics you really would like to hear more about, do feel free to let us know because this is for you 100%. So let's get cracking about today. Sam, over to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today we're focusing on a mindset makeover for your lasting weight loss journey. And we wanted to really talk about the importance of mindset. You kind of hear this term bandied about all over the place these days. And we just wanted to break it down a little bit for you. So to define what we mean by mindset. So mindset is the lens through which you view challenges. Um, do you view them as opportunities, or can you possibly change to looking at challenges in your path as opportunities to grow? And we think about this growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, which is from the work of Carol Dweck. So a growth mindset is looking at it as a challenge, as an opportunity to learn and improve, and a fixed mindset is more, as it sounds like, fixed. You're either good at something or you're bad at something, and that will never change, So then you can see how that can put you in a bit of a box, and then you can never move out of that box. So we really want to be encouraging this flexibility of a more growth mindset that you can learn, you can do things differently, things can improve, and the changes can last. And it's really essential when we're thinking about a challenge like weight loss, which I think we've all probably experienced maybe multiple times. I know I have, going on a big change in lifestyle to improve health. Um, we really need to have that flexibility of mind so that we can develop and learn through the process and have that sort of bit of movement, so we're not rigid and fixed. because we know that a weight loss journey is a long-term change. It's a long-term journey. It's every day. It's going to be lifelong. We're making these changes that will in the beginning require that consistent effort and then become more habitual so that it's not requiring so much effort because it's just what you normally do anyway. You've made these changes to your lifestyle and they stick. Okay, and they become the new norm. That's what we're aiming for. But that positive mindset in the beginning helps us to maintain our motivation, even when perhaps progress is slow or we have a setback, like, for example, the Christmas period we've just had, which I know can be a setback for many of us. Okay. But instead of viewing that setback or that slip up as a failure, can we reframe that with our growth mindset as a learning opportunity? You know, what can we do differently if we notice, okay, we had a bit of a slip up and we perhaps overindulge at this occasion, right? What led to that overindulgence and what can I do differently next time? For example, was there alcohol involved? Did I perhaps overindulge a bit on the wine and therefore that sort of made me a bit more a bit feel that commitment to this health journey that I am committed to, it slipped a little bit in that time. So what can I do next time? So we want to really embrace those slip ups and look at them as learning opportunities and surrounding ourselves. What can really help us maintain this flexible mindset is to surround ourselves with positive influences and cultivate that attitude of gratitude to really appreciate the changes that we have made already, the ones we want to make, really noticing the differences as we go along and having that flexible mind that even if something doesn't go quite according to plan one day, it's okay. We draw a line and we move on. We learn a lesson perhaps from what happened and we keep walking forwards because we are committed. Okay. We really want to focus on your long-term success rather than anything that looks like a quick gimmicky fix that we know that that doesn't work. We have to we have to walk this every day. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful. And I can really relate to that. Over Christmas, the sweet treats were in abundance in my house. And it's amazing how in the evening we got into the habit of having a little sneaky snack. And I had to really draw a line under it and just think, hang on a minute, this is becoming, it's almost like it's really weird. And I'm sure lots of people would relate to this, but it's weird because then you're sitting there and you almost have this requirement to have that sweet snack because you've had it the last few evenings. So I've had to draw a big line under that and just move forward and just recognize that pattern was beginning to form. It's fascinating, isn't it? How we are such creatures of habit. I'm
Yeah.
sure other people would have experienced similarly. Yeah. So I think you're going to talk to us about the going into this whole why and that motivation a little bit more because this is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is really our anchor. So, it's the beginning of January, so we wanted to start with, the real fundamentals. So, your why is your driving purpose of why you are going on this journey anyway. Why are you trying to lose weight in the first place? And I don't want, I really would invite you to think about this rather than think of the first thing that comes into your mind. Go a bit deeper. Okay, because we want to find a reason why that is emotionally charged and not if we can find that internal motivator. So that is to do with our emotions. So something that is really meaningful to us. We can have those sort of, and they're not unhelpful. I want to fit into this dress. I've got all these clothes and there are three sizes smaller and I want to get into them again. That, okay, that's one reason why. What if we go under that? Okay, so I want to fit into this dress. What does it mean to you to fit into that dress? Is it that you will have more self-confidence? Is it that you want more confidence because you want to start dating again, or you want to put yourself forward at work, or you want to set an example for your children, or you want to prove it to yourself that you can make changes, even though this weight might have been with you for a long time. There can be all sorts of reasons. Yours will be personal to you, and I warmly encourage you to spend some time thinking about it and write it down. Maybe put it on your phone as your screensaver, put it on a post-it and stick it to your bathroom mirror, onto the fridge, just somewhere where you will be reminded of it so that you have this driving purpose as a reminder. If we do have those little slip ups now and again, you come back to why you're doing it and why it is meaningful for you to do this. And it will be different for each of us. And there's no silly answer to this. Yours is personal to you, but what we know from the research about motivation is it helps if it is an internal motivator. It's stronger than the external, I want to fit into the dress, which is one level. If we can go beneath that, because what does that mean to us? Um, it's a yeah, it can be a real ally for us and an anchor so that we can come back to, which we can come back to if we have days where we wobble a little bit and we wobble with our resolve, which we're human, okay? These things happen. But we really want to support you with you really want to support yourself with that solid reason, that solid driving purpose behind your actions.
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial, isn't it? I know we've got a poll, so I think we'll share our poll with you now on just to find out what's going on for you in terms of this why and your motivation to be here on this journey. So let's see if we can dig that out and find it. Um, Raman's here as well, so she might find it sooner than me, but otherwise, hmm, very interesting. They've changed the whole setup of the. Okay. Have you found it, Raman, or is it for some reason not picking up?
Which poll are you looking for, Ruth?
Yeah, no, it's very old. Um, very interesting. It's not. We're looking for the motivation poll, I believe, but it's not picking up. So I think we'll just move on because that's frustrating for everyone if we're talking about something that doesn't. Well, I guess it would be really interesting to hear from you in the chat box. Do you know what your why is? How motivated are you feeling at the beginning of the year? You could score that with 10 being really motivated and 0 being not that motivated. Or if you're struggling with your motivation, let us know. I think the fact that we've got so many people here today means that that whole new year has really kicked that motivation back in, hopefully for many people.
It's great. It's great. It's so great to see so many of you here because, yeah, this is a powerful time of year for those new commitments to ourselves. And we're really
Okay,
glad for you
so
to be
we've
here. Look at all of these numbers.
got
Wow.
eight
Gosh,
here and 9. Thank you from
we've
Anne.
got a 10 from Alison.
Mary, you're on a 5. So what do we need to get you to do, Mary?
Yeah,
What do you need to do to get yourself up to a 7 or an 8 to really get you where you need to be? Lots of 9s, fantastic. Anyone who's
lots of
sitting at the
sixes
lower
and
end,
fives. Yeah,
maybe start thinking, okay, what is it? What is it? Really, really start engaging. Like Sam was saying, what is your emotional reason for wanting to do this? Because if you can figure that out, and there's this process called the 5 whys. I don't know if you've heard of that, Sam, where you can just keep asking yourself why, and then why, and then why, and then why, and why 5 times, and you will get to that real
yeah,
hub of reason.
yeah,
It's a bit of a weird one, but it can actually help you really nail it and figure out what's important for you because this can really help. And
yeah.
thank you. So
That's really well said, Ruth, because that's what I mean by go underneath it. So why is that dress important? Why is the self-confidence important? Why is, the reason beneath that? Just keep asking why, as Ruth said. And if you need 5 times, great. You might get to something and you're like, that's it. You'll know when you feel it, because it will be a felt sense of why you're doing this. Because we all know it presents challenges. Some days are much easier than others, and you know, we have to develop our strategies and our confidence in ourselves that we can keep putting one foot in front of the other, and that we're not here to win a race. These are changes that will be gradual, and that's fine. We're not looking to drop 10 stone in a week. That would just be completely bananas. We don't want that, and it's not good for your system. We want to just make this a nice, steady change for your body so that your habits and behaviors can catch up with the changes in your weight, with your appetite, with the changes that are going on the physical level. Okay. Oh, I like that. My
comments.
driving force is to be able to walk comfortably without pain and enjoy more adventures as I move into my older stage of life. That's fantastic. That's great. Um, Mm, 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 mm.
Yeah, it's really, really
I would
good.
also encourage you to frame it positively, which that is pretty positive, but you reminded me. Um, so I would, yeah, I would just say be able to walk comfortably and enjoy, and yeah, and really enjoy more, yeah, and that's really powerful. That enjoyment, that's what I really want. I look forward to those adventures, pain-free, comfortable,
And actually,
fantastic.
weight loss as an adventure and
Mm,
actually reframing it as something really positive can really help as well. So, we want to
absolutely.
talk a little bit today about goal setting because there's a few things to think about in terms of setting our goals. So number one, interestingly enough, and no surprise, I guess, is that really if we can link our goal to what is important to us and why we're on this journey in the first place, it can really help to empower ourselves to really make this work. So knowing that why sort of comes into the goal as well. But we also want you to be thinking about your goal in terms of, okay, if you're somebody who's got significant amounts of weight to lose, that can feel like a mountain that could be almost like I was listening to one of those talking books at the weekend, and it was, it's exactly saying this, but if we create a mountain, then it can be very overwhelming. And when mountaineers are climbing a mountain, they do it one step at a time, or they do it one hurdle at a time, or they set little spaces on the mountain where they're going to stop and have a camp or a drink or a rest. And weight loss journeys are exactly the same. So it's like climbing a mountain. It's about setting small goals. And as you can see from the picture on the slide, if we set those large goals that are really out of reach and unachievable, that's very demotivating. It really sort of undermines our confidence and makes us feel that it's sort of out of reach. We're never going to achieve it. We get into that negative spiraling mindset of doom, and we want to move away from that. We want to move into that mindset of, oh, okay, that's really achievable. I can do this. Okay, so my first goal is to lose 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 pounds, maybe 3 kilos, whatever way you look at your weight. It could be that actually for you, fitting into a certain pair of jeans or a dress is your goal. It doesn't have to be a weight orientated goal. It could be that actually being able to walk for 10 minutes without pain might be your goal if walking comfortably is the thing that you're aiming for. So you can make it relevant to you. So think about those small steps because this is really important. Set the step that is just that tiny bit to really aim for, and then write it down so you know what you're aiming for and really just re-monitor and check in with yourself and make it achievable. I think the achievability is really important. Then once you've achieved that goal, you congratulate yourself. You feel that feeling of success and that really boosts this whole story. You will make it to the top of the mountain if you take it off one little nugget at a time. So it's really important. Once you've achieved that first goal, you move on to the next goal. I don't know if anybody here, there are some people who've been here for a year or have been coming to the webinars on and off for a few months. If you've done any of this and you've got any helpful tips to share, please do share because we are here with you and we know that you have a lot to share with us as well. So you want it to be short term, measurable. You want to write it down. You want to make it something that's achievable. And then to really power up your feeling of happiness and self esteem, you want to congratulate yourself when you've achieved it. And all of those things will really, really help with that. Yeah. And Sam, in terms of measuring success, I think this is really important for us to be thinking more broadly than just weight, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So we talk about this quite a lot in the podcast. If any of you have checked out the podcast or wish to, please do. We'll share the link in the chat box too. But we talk a lot about measuring success, and some of us are very fine measuring our weight and going by our weight and doing that every week or every few weeks. That's fine. It's not really that important how often you do it, but if you're looking for a goal and it's weight related, you might want to do it on a regular basis just to chart things. A lot of people are not happy weighing themselves, and that is fine. You don't have to do it. There are other ways to do it. You can do a waist circumference. Sometimes that's a really useful and actually has other implications because obviously many of us carry our weight around our middle, around that sort of belly button area, and that can indicate other, fat deposition around our abdominal organs, which we want to reduce, which we really want to bring down. We all want to reduce our belly fat if we're carrying it in that area. So using a simple measuring tape and measuring around our middles can be a useful gauge of where our journey is taking us. There are some sort of softer signs as well, but I think they can be when we notice that our energy levels are really low, this can be a result of our increased weight. Okay, so as we start to lose weight, we might recognize actually our energy levels are a bit better, and we're not so tired, and we're not flagging, halfway through the day or halfway through the afternoon. So really looking at energy levels over the day, you might want to use our food and mood diary, because that can be just helpful just to note it down. Maybe as a score out of 10, it's just an easy way to jot it down, because sometimes we just go through life, we're very busy, and we just carry on and we don't take a little bit of time to reflect. But we might notice when there's a big difference, but those subtle changes day to day, we might not notice as well. So just having a way to note it down, maybe if you have your own diary, you could um, just a little note in the corner of like, what were my energy levels like today? And you could note that down so that you recognize it. Sleep quality is something that also is impacted by our waistline. And if we're carrying extra weight, it might be that our sleep is not as good as it could be. It might be more interrupted. We also know that our sleep quality and the amount that we sleep is actually related to our appetite and how much fuel we take into our body. So we will talk much more about that at another time, but monitoring our sleep quality might be a nice way to measure our success also. And of course, if we are carrying a lot of weight and it is making us unhappy, we may really notice that day to day. And what could be really nice is to notice the change as the weight starts to come off. If we notice that perhaps our mood improves, perhaps our anxiety eases a bit, and just recognizing the changes that come with weight loss. It's not just the changes on the scale. There are so many other changes that are impacted when we are successful with our weight loss.
Yeah, and on that note, I guess when we're feeling low in mood, it can be really hard to be on track. So I think it's really important to just be very kind to yourself and keep it simple. Try not to overwhelm yourselves because, the more simple that we make this, the easier it becomes. I know that hopefully that makes sense to people. So I think our
Absolutely.
tips for this week are absolutely right bang on target. Keep it simple. It's really, really important. Don't overwhelm yourself. Set yourself up with that really simple, small step. What are you going to aim to achieve? I can see somebody's put in here that they're knocking off the stones one at a time and actually sharing their success. I could
That's
also
fantastic.
really, really great. Somebody was talking about willpower. So they've got a lot of motivation, but they feel that willpower might be their tripping up factor. We'll talk about willpower, but willpower is a misnomer, actually. And we talk about this a lot in the habits webinar. We'll do all about how to create healthy habits in a few weeks' time. I don't know if it's on the next slide or if it's coming up in February. But that is a really important webinar to come to if you're somebody who feels that willpower is the thing that undermines your success or stops you from achieving your goals. What we've learned from doing all of this research for these webinars and from our learning of working with people is that actually willpower isn't the story. It's about challenging your own habitual behavior and really trying to make some new habits on this journey. When you look at it that way, it really flips the coin and it makes it much, much more straightforward. So that's something to consider, hopefully.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that consistency, isn't it, Ruth? It's like that sticking to it. And I think that comes back to your why as you remember why you're doing it in the first place. So I said this earlier in the talk, um it can feel like a lot of effort in the beginning because you're laying down that foundation. And that is we're undoing maybe habits of a lifetime, and we're not doing them all at once. We're just picking one or two simple things, and we're going for low hanging fruit. We're going for the easy things first because we're not going to overwhelm ourselves. But once we put the effort into those foundational things. Maybe it's our snacking, maybe it's what we drink, maybe it's the sugar we put in our tea or coffee, maybe it's alcohol. There are lots of things, and we're not doing them all at once, but we're looking at and we're being kind to ourselves, but we're recognizing where are the places in our days where we are not aligned with our goal of weight loss or improving our joint health of um, getting into the dress, feeling more confident, walking pain free, that kind of thing. That we really want to be honest with ourselves, non-judgmental, not harsh on ourselves. We are being quite methodical, almost scientific, and thinking, that's a little, that's something I need to look at. That's something I need to look at. I'm going to take one thing and I'm going to work on it. And this is what I mean by steady progress. If we try and do everything, if we try and starve our bodies, or just cut everything out and go on a mad health kick in January and just eat broccoli for a month, it it's not going to work because we know that. And I think in our heart of hearts, we all know that. We need to do something. We need to make the changes that we can maintain things that we enjoy because we all love food. Ruth and I love food. That's why we do this. We are we love food and we want you to love food, but we want you to love the food that loves you back and keeps you in alignment with your goals. I don't want to go off track because we're really trying in this new year to not go completely off track in every webinar, but keep it simple,
Yeah.
small steps, set those goals. Spend some time doing that why exercise. Why do you want to do this in the first place? So, okay, the first thing that comes into your head, why? That thing, why? Just go down and just be really honest with yourself. And sometimes it's super emotional, and that is okay.
Yeah.
If you need to, if you need extra support, of course, reach out for the support you need. But we know that it's an emotional journey, and finding that why, finding that deep drive can be emotional. But I warmly encourage you to explore and to really make this journey one of um, you know,
Discovery.
opportunity, discovery, adventure. We're changing. We're really changing. We're building habits for life. This isn't a short-term fix. We know that doesn't work. We know gimmicks don't work. This is something that's going to be with you and it's going to really help you, your joints, your energy, your mood, your sleep, and hopefully, and we really want it to be enjoyable, as much as it can be, discovering different things, trying different foods, finding out that actually I really like this stuff. It's not that I'm having to eat something that I really hate all the time, and that's never going to work because you're not going to stick with it. We have to be a little bit adventurous. We know that our taste buds can change as well. I don't want to keep talking and make everything confusing, but safe to say, we're not here to tell you you can't have all of your favorite things and everything is just going to be bland from now on. That is not what we're here to say. But we're here to say that mindset is super important and putting that one foot in front of the other, really being kind to yourself as you explore your reasons for why you're doing this, as you set your goals. It's these are really crucial foundations to put in. And if you have questions about this topic or about any other topics relating to weight loss, please pop them in the Q&A box. We're going to go on to that section very shortly. Um, and yes, please do ask us if you would like our support. But that's what we're here to do.
Very much so, yeah. And so look, here are the next few webinars coming up in the rest of January. They're all available to book into now on Eventbrite. And we will be hopefully a little bit more speedy at getting the webinars for the rest of the next few months up onto Eventbrite too. So we should get February's up soon. So you know what's happening and hopefully can join us as much as it suits you too. And that really brings us to the end of the slide share. So we're going to stop sharing the slides now, and we're going to come over to your questions. So thank you. We will take a look at those. Yeah, exactly, Zahira. It's exactly that. Small steps and slow is helping me. It's not easy. But do you know what? Climbing a mountain isn't easy. Life, I think, isn't easy. I don't mean that in any way. It isn't easy. And it's actually really hard because we live in a world where the food availability doesn't actually help us most of the time. It's sort of like a lot of food isn't designed to be healthy, is it? Um, yeah.
Yes, we could get quite animated about that, couldn't we, Ruth? But perhaps we won't go down that rabbit hole. But thank you. It's a fair comment. And we know that weight loss presents challenges, but also we know that we can set our mindsets. We know that we are strong, that we can cultivate this inner strength to be able to make the changes that we know will benefit us in the long run. That's why we need to have a really solid reason why we're doing this, because not every day will be easy. Some days will be easier than others, though. And we really want that benefit. We want that lifelong change. We want that sustainable weight loss so that pain-free, you don't have that knee pain. That knee pain is greatly eased because you're not carrying the same weight. That joint is not carrying the same weight, on a very practical, physical level. You might, there are if your goal is self-confidence because you want to put yourself forward more and you want to speak up more and you feel that's an important factor for you, you want that for the long term. You don't just want that for a month or two and then, and then it slides a bit. You want that to really hold you. So we really want that for you too, and that's what we're here for. So let's have a look at some of these questions.
There's a lot of food related questions, and we'll be talking about food a lot in the next couple of weeks. So we'll pick up some of the points there. We'll address them briefly today, but do come along if you can to the next couple of weeks because they're very food orientated. A couple of people have asked about how to reduce appetite, and so this is all about creating blood sugar balance and insulin sensitivity, and we will go into that in more detail next week. But simplistically, you would be best off following something like the core meal plan, eating 3 meals a day and cutting out snacks. That sounds really hard, and it might be a long way from where you are now. So it might be something that you want to set as a goal, that you reduce down the number of snacks you have, or what we want, and we'll go into this in more detail. But those sort of processes will help to create a little bit more blood sugar stability and insulin sensitivity that can really help with weight loss and with hunger. You then want to make sure that you've nailed your protein at every meal. So we want a minimum of zero point 0.8 grams. Yep, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So weigh yourselves, work out what that is in kilograms, multiply that by 0.8. That's your minimum level. If you're a menopausal woman, there's an argument that you might need even more. If you're doing a huge amount of exercise, you may need more than that. Protein can really help with satiety, so that's really important. In terms of hunger regulation, protein is really important. And then the healthy fats that feed our brains can really help. And then boosting in all of the sort of colourful, sort of low sugar, low carbohydrate vegetables. Again, filling up on those, really, really helpful.
Just a point there, Ruth. So that zero point 0.8 times our weight in kilograms,
Yeah,
that is your protein over a day. So you
yeah,
divide that up
absolutely.
over your
Over
2 or 3 meals.
3 meals.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
great.
It can be quite a lot. So, if you were somebody who were weighing 100 kilograms, for example, quick and easy, then it's going to be 100 grams of protein, which is a lot of protein. That's more than 3 chicken breasts a day. So that's a lot of protein. A chicken breast is around 25 grams. A couple of eggs is 14 grams, I think. So, we need to look at that. So, yeah. Oh, 80 grams. Thanks, Melanie. Yeah, good maths. It shows where my head is today on the 6th of January. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully that's helpful. Okay.
yeah, great. Um, oh, there's a question about low-fat food, especially low-fat yogurts. What do we think of low-fat foods, Ruth? I mean, it depends. There are some good options out there. I think we have to be a little bit careful when we go for low-fat foods and low-fat yogurts, and we have to start being a bit more confident looking at the labels of things. Because, also all fat is not bad. So we have to also not be terrified of fat. I think what we need to be more wary of is sugar.
Mm.
Okay, and that's often what we see with a low fat product is that other ingredients, often processed ingredients, are put into that substance, that yogurt, for example, give it the same quality, the same texture, etc. There might be more sugar in it, but there may be those additional unknown items, emulsifiers, etc., that can increase the or improve the texture compared to the full fat version. So I think, gosh, it's a tricky one and it's difficult when you don't have an actual product to talk about. But I guess we look at the I tend to look at the provenance of stuff, how much sugar is in there. Is this uh, kind of are there live cultures in it, which obviously is great for our guts? How much of it are we eating? Is there a lot of sugar? A lot of those sort of fruit syrups are very high in sugar, of course, and they will make a big spike in our blood sugar, and we really want to avoid that. We want to have that nice smooth curve of our blood sugar over the day, so we're not having these very sugary things that then lead to a craving shortly afterwards because it's metabolized very quickly, and we end up on this blood sugar roller coaster, which we will talk more about next week. I don't want to go into that too much, but we really want to be looking at the sugar content of various foods, especially low fat foods, and when we think about low fat foods, the other things that are put into that low fat alternative to make it taste like the full fat version. So it's going to be likely more processed. What would you do you think?
I agree, and I think, and there's a really nice little podcast episode, a 10-minute episode on whether to ditch the fats or the sugars. So that would be good. Mandeep, I don't know if you're able to share some links. I don't know if you have shared any links, but the links to the podcast recordings would be great. And also, somebody was asking for the food diary too, so that they could use that as well. So it would be great. Somebody's asked if their webinars are recorded. Yes, and there are previous recordings now available on the YouTube link that we'll be able to share with you in a minute. And today's will be put up somewhere this week by some of the IT support team who work with the Boots Online Doctor. So that's great. So hopefully you can look at those. Thanks, Raman. That's brilliant. Somebody is asking about weight loss plateaus. They've lost 10% of their weight, their initial weight, but they've been plateauing now for a few months, which is really challenging. We know we hear this from a lot of people. Do we have any advice for getting going on your weight loss journey again? It's a really, really big question, actually, and I feel like there's a whole episode that we should do on weight loss plateaus, which I'm going to make a note of. But Sam, let's go over to you and then I'll pick up on anything else I can think of.
Well, we need to remember that plateauing is part of the journey, which you probably already know that, but just to so that everyone knows, weight loss is not a straight line. So we don't, weight doesn't just go down like this. It tends to go down in a kind of stepwise fashion. And what a plateau is thought to be, is thought to be is our body recalibrating to a new set point. So this is part of set point theory, where um, it's thought that the homeostatic mechanisms of the body, so that's the part the body basically wants to keep everything steady in balance. And if your body has been at 100 kilos for 10 years, that's a pretty strong set point. Okay. And then if you drop 10%, you go down to 90 kilos, you want to set that as your new set point, your body, but your body is a little bit like, oh, hang on a minute, we're pretty good at 100 and that was our set point. So we're trying to recalibrate. It takes a bit of time for that body to then recalibrate to the new set point of 90 kilos. And it will keep on going as your efforts keep going, but it is more like a step down to that lower as the weight decreases as you continue your efforts. What to do to break a feeling of stagnation. So you're definitely carrying on with all the things that you're doing with the changes in your habits, with the changes in the way you're eating, the way you're drinking, the way you're snacking, perhaps, making those differences, the way you're managing your stress, the way you're managing your sleep. Um, there are various theories on what could break a set point. Some people actually say actually increasing the amount that you're eating can be helpful. That's one school of thought. I don't want to give you advice and scupper all your efforts. So increasing, I would say cautiously increasing what you're eating can be helpful for some. So maybe that's increasing, maybe adding a bit more protein to your meals and just having that as a, okay, maybe this will trigger, because protein's great, it's metabolized very quickly, it supports your muscle mass, it as long as it's a lean protein, it's going to be used for building your body, and it's processed fairly simply by your body. It doesn't increase your uh uh sorry, your it's usually low glycemic, so you won't have those blood sugar spikes. That's one way to approach it. Ruth, do you have any other
Yeah, I think it's
tips?
maybe worth just going back to the drawing board and not assuming you're getting everything right. And that's horrible. But I think the research tells us that when people are in plateaus, it could be that things are happening in the background that they haven't really stopped and thought about. Making sure you're drinking enough water, because water is really important for fat burning. So, are you hydrated adequately? What colour is your urine? Is it a nice pale straw colour? If not, then there's possibly capacity to up your clear fluids, and that can really help. And also, just I think with food, we are such creatures of habit. And maybe if you're eating the same foods all the time, it would be really worth just shaking that up, introducing some new foods, and just sometimes our bodies just get used to. I think that metabolic flexibility can be triggered by perhaps having an occasional high calorie meal, and that can really stimulate you to just change your caloric requirements. So it's a really big, I think it needs to be a bit more of a personalized approach, really, to really be helpful. But that there is some science that you can sort of chop and change a little bit more. So vary what you're eating. Some people, if you're not taking any weight loss medications, which some people will be, others won't, you could consider some intermittent fasting. That can really help in terms of insulin sensitivity. So there's lots you can do. And just don't give up. Plateaus can really undermine our sort of why and our sort of self-esteem, and really make it challenging. And also just focus on where you've come from and really recognize where you've got to. And the other thing, finally, sorry, I'm blaring on now, is measure yourself, because it's not all about the scales.
Yeah.
So make sure you measure your wrist circumference, your thigh circumference, your waist, and just track that, because sometimes you can be losing centimeters and actually the weight isn't changing on the scales, but that can really help in terms of keeping that motivation going. So hopefully that will help.
Absolutely. And also if you are doing you've lost 10% of your weight, which is fantastic. So congratulations on that. If you're increasing your exercise, building muscle as well, remember muscle mass is a bit heavier than fat mass. So the weighing scales, that the measurements obviously will maybe not reflective of the changes that are going on in your body with body composition, which is really which is far more important, really.
Somebody's asking about menopausal weight gain or difficulty losing weight post a sort of sudden entrance into menopause following treatment for cancer. Really sorry to hear that's been your journey. I know that's really hard. We do have a whole weight loss webinar that we're going to be running in March, which is probably too far away to be incredibly helpful right now, all around menopause and weight loss. But again, follow that core meal plan. Really work on your blood sugar balance. If you can come along next week and learn a little bit more around blood sugar balancing and how to eat to really nail that, that would be great. The next couple of weeks are all food related. And I think, if you're struggling with cravings for sugar, that just suggests that you've got a lot of perhaps blood sugar imbalance. That could be because of stress, it could be because of the food you're eating. It's not always just about the food, but it's really worth looking at all of those things under the microscope. And just come to as many of these as you can, and we will support you through this journey.
And what might be useful before you come along is to use that food and symptom diary. Just fill it in this week. You don't have to make any changes necessarily, but just look at the baseline of where you are and and then bring it along. But maybe you'll notice things yourself because you're going to put down on that form, when you experienced cravings, what your mood was like, whether you had a sugar crash and you felt irritable and you know, you were snappy to a colleague or something like that. Just just noticing the pattern without judgment, but we can do something about it. If it's, often related to food, as Ruth said, it can be related to other things, but a lot of it's related to food, and we're not even aware that our, sugar crashes are causing these, or carbohydrate crashes. I know we don't all like sugar, maybe we're more crisp people, and that becomes, our story, and it's kind of writing this background of mood changes without us even being aware of it. So the food and symptom diary, which Raman has very kindly added to the chat box, you can just download it. It's just a PDF. It's just a simple grid to help you just record everything without judgment.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody's asking a really interesting question about whether following a vegan, vegetarian, or omnivore diet is best for weight loss. Actually, really and truly, it makes no difference. The research tells us that there is no absolute winner in terms of long-term weight loss. There's maybe a slight edge with low carbohydrate approaches, and also the Mediterranean diet is a really great way to eat for our long-term health. Our core meal plan picks up on the sort of elements of the low carb approach to eating, or a lower carbohydrate approach to eating, and sort of adding in the healthy fats from the Mediterranean approach, just because we know we want you all to be really healthy. So that's what we want to advocate. But whether you choose to be vegan, vegetarian, or an omnivore is a really personal choice. And actually, what the research 100% says is choosing a way of eating that's consistent with your love of food, the foods that you enjoy, the healthy foods that you enjoy, I should say. Obviously, if your favorite food is donuts and chips, we're not going to advocate that you eat those too often, maybe as an occasional treat, but sort of choosing the style of eating that really works for you is probably the most important thing to do, because once you've got wrapped your head around how you do that healthily, it becomes actually very straightforward. And that's what we want. We want this to be simple. We're not trying to sell any really complex, gimmicky approach. Agreed, Sam?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we love sort of the idea of your plate being plant-based. That doesn't mean that you don't have a lean meat like a chicken breast or something, but that the majority of your plate is plant-based. So that's above ground vegetables, lots of color, lots of diversity. We're sort of having a smaller portion of perhaps the rice or the bread that goes on that plate, or the potatoes, and we're really filling our plate with those colorful plants, because plants have got so much goodness for us. We can really absorb a lot in terms of nutrient. We can think about our gut health, and also energy wise, we know that those are lower energy foods than some other than the other options out there. So, and also they're fresh, they're unprocessed, and they can offer us a lot. So, we please do have a look at the core meal plan, which is a really helpful kind of amalgamation of Mediterranean and low carb. So we're really looking at that low GI, so low glycemic index, keeping our blood sugar steady over the day to minimize those physical cravings that we have when we get a low blood sugar. Um, that can help us to um, reduce that appetite that can be sort of hypersensitive if we have a lot of sweetness in our lives, a lot of high carbs in our lives. But we're kind of using the science to really support our appetites and support those our healthy intentions.
Yeah, there's a question, and there's quite a few questions we need to quickly go through if we can. Somebody's asking about their why. Really interesting comment in the questions box about that sort of why being maybe a bit of an external motivator around dress size, whereas they're now wanting to perhaps dig in and figure out what their emotional reason is. And actually, what they've said is that they don't have to fail again. And what they're asking is, they've actually phrased this as I can lose weight. That's a really positive mindset. I don't have to fail is perhaps just suggesting a negative word. So I want you to perhaps rephrase that and get rid of the fail word, because the minute we hear those negative words, it sort of sends our brain into that negative spin. Um, Maybe you want to feel great. I can feel great. I want to feel great. I can
Yeah,
feel great.
I want to feel great in my body. I want to feel healthy in my body. I want to um my why, because I want to prove to myself I can succeed. I think you're along the right lines. You're really along the right lines. I would just, yeah, just
Just tweak it.
not that kind of I don't want to, because that's, what do you want? I want this, or like I want to prove it to myself that I can succeed with this, that I can maintain it. I want to, yeah, and I want to, and how do you want to feel? What would that success feel like to you? I want to feel great. I want to feel great in myself. I want to be really proud of myself that I can succeed at this challenge.
Somebody's saying that their mindset of belief gets harder in terms of trying to keep the weight off, have had lots of success in the first 6 months, but the weight is harder to shift over the past 2 months, despite doing everything really well. Looks like it. Good diet, no alcohol, and regular exercise at the gym. So I would say it does become harder to lose weight the closer we get to our goals. So that's number one. It's very great that you are still focusing. And I think all I've read around weight loss maintenance is we just have to keep turning up and we just keep having to do this for ourselves every day. And then, as long as we don't take our eye off the ball, as long as we keep some measurement of success and we keep our eye on that, and as long as we stay fairly consistent with our food, then we can maintain. So it is about getting rid of that diet fix mindset where you are on a diet and then you're suddenly no longer on a diet and all of those old habits crawl back in or race back in some cases. And we really want those to be habits that, if there are treats that you love, for them to become treats that you have occasionally rather than treats that you have regularly. We want this to be a journey of learning and rediscovery and actually finding the foods that you can eat abundantly that are going to keep you healthy, and you're going to be able to just maintain your weight without all of this energy and effort. And you learn to trust yourselves, and it will, that can happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Question about energy levels versus moods, diary, or is there a tool that measures energy levels or moods? Is there a tool that you're aware of? There is a subjective mood tracking tool somewhere. I don't think we've got one. Is there one you're
Um, there are, I'm sure you can find one, sort of mood, I guess it's like mood lability you'd be looking at online. On our food and mood diary, you can just mark it in there. It doesn't need to be sophisticated. Some of you are probably more high tech than I am. I'm more of a pen and paper person. But then there, if you can find a mood tracker, I don't see why you couldn't use that, a mood tracking app on. I don't have one in my toolkit, I'm afraid. I have pen and paper. But it's quite a helpful thing because I think it's one of those subtle changes that we don't often appreciate until there's a big change. And you're kind of like, oh, I'm sure I felt differently 3 months ago, but I don't exactly remember. So it's good to track it. And so we notice those subtle changes. I'm sorry I don't have a better resource, but that's a good one. Maybe we can have a route around and see if we can find something that we like the look of to recommend to you.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. Good. Somebody's asked about intermittent fasting, and I assume it relates to yourself for an 85-year-old. I haven't read any studies for older people in intermittent fasting, but also what I was thinking as I was reflecting on that question is, we're not all the same biologically. Our age doesn't necessarily reflect our health. So it would very much depend on what your health is like. This is for anyone who's considering intermittent fasting. How your blood sugar management is, how your sleep is, what your stress is like. And we'll talk about this a little bit more over the next couple of weeks. So I think we'll pick up on that and go into that in a bit more detail then. But yeah, it's not off the cards, but it really depends on medications and all of your health history as well.
Yeah. And you could start very, you know, with all that, considering all that, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be just you have your dinner at, you don't eat anything after 8 p.m. and then you have your breakfast as usual at 8 a.m. It could be a 12 and 12. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Um, and, but again, it would be individual advice for this, for you in case there's medications and whatnot involved. We don't want to,
Give you any wrong advice.
mm,
Yeah. Somebody's using painkillers and is trying to keep in calorie deficit. So what should my daily calorie intake be?
mm,
We really would prefer you to be thinking about those core meals plans and the sort of the way of eating whereby you're sort of reducing down processed foods, high sugar foods, high glycemic foods. And if you do that, I know there are certain medications that can make weight loss more challenging. It is also about making sure you're supporting your liver. So you're drinking plenty of clear fluids and you're eating lots of vegetables to help your liver process all of those medications. Yeah. And then in terms of calories, we rarely recommend looking at calories, but there are occasions when, so say for the lady who or the gentleman who was stuck in the plateau, then occasionally doing a calorie review can be helpful for a few days. And so I'm just going to share with you in the chat box the BMR calculator from Diabetes UK. And so what you would do with this is it helps to calculate your basal metabolic rate. That's the first step in the journey. You put in your age, your weight, and your height, I think, and it calculates your caloric needs for a 24-hour period based on those factors. You then need to multiply that, and at the bottom of that are levels for which you multiply based on your activity level. So if you're very active, I saw there was a comment in the chat box from somebody who's doing a huge amount of exercise, really worthwhile for you to really look at your calorie requirements. And if you're in a plateau, it might be worth and then tracking just for a few days, just to make sure you're sort of, sometimes I think you said this earlier, we can eat too few calories, and that can actually put our body into a situation where it really finds it difficult to release the weight as well. So that can be helpful occasionally just to check in. Not something we recommend you do all the time.
Gosh, I'm just noticing Elizabeth's comment in the chat box. Wow, you do a lot of exercise. That is fantastic. Wow. So for you, I don't know whether it's worth getting on. You might have these at home or at your gym, body composition scales, just to look, because for you, you probably have a lot of muscle tissue. And as we said before, muscle tissue is heavier than fat. So you might be looking for a change on the scales, but actually what might be happening inside your physical body is that body composition is changing. So you're gaining more fat tissue, sorry, you're gaining more muscle tissue and you're losing fat tissue. And that, and when you're training this much, it is I mean, I don't, I mean, that seems like a lot of protein, and I'm not an expert in if you're a triathlete in this sort of special endurance um, uh, intake. I cannot give you any advice there. I'm sorry. You'd have to speak to whoever is training you and supporting you in this. But I would probably be using a more of a body composition scale to be looking rather than relying on just your basic bathroom scales.
And also with the basal metabolic rate, the thing it doesn't account for, and there doesn't appear to be anything anywhere, is that you it doesn't really take body composition into account. So it's a very crude evaluation. Somebody's asked what you do with the BMR once you've calculated it. So I've just copied and pasted from the diabetes, there's this Harris Benedict formula. So once you've calculated your BMR, you then would calculate by your activity level to get your caloric needs. If you're aiming to lose weight, you would then subtract 500-ish calories. Again, it's a very, very crude measurement, so it's very difficult, but I find it helpful in terms of just getting people to recognize that they need far more calories than they perhaps think they do. I think we tend to think we need really minimal calories. A lot of people will crash down to 1,000 calories or 800 calories a day and actually will then struggle in the long term to keep that weight off. We want you not to be doing that as well. So it can be helpful if you're really struggling to understand how much to eat. So
Yeah. And then yes, and there's a question in the chat. We've got maybe time for one more question. As we're all individuals, do you think it's wise to get hung up on things like BMI? So it's a good question. So BMI is a simple measurement to take and to make comparisons between, what's a healthy range, what's a overweight range, where those parameters fall. It's not the most specific thing, and different ethnic groups have different parameters. The values shift a little bit for different ethnic groups. But also, if you're very tall, if you're very small, if you have a lot of muscle mass, the number is kind of skewed. I find it a helpful thing in the beginning as we start to get our heads around all of these things, and sort of it's a parameter to look at that we can track and just notice whether it's going in the right direction. But in the same way as weight is, as we start to get a bit more sophisticated, as one of our attendees here is a mega fit person that's training a lot. If you're exercising a lot, sometimes it's useful to use that body composition if you can. And they don't have to be, sometimes they have more sophisticated things at gyms because they're quite expensive. But I think you can actually purchase body composition scales for not very much money from wherever, possibly from Boots, probably from Amazon. But they don't have to be very expensive. They're not like 100% accurate. Let's just put our hands up to that. But again, they at least, if you're measuring yourself on the same piece of equipment, at least you'll be able to track, and you'll get that sort of change showing up. Um, but it's a good question because I know it can be a bit one size fits all, and it's definitely not. We're all individuals, and we all have our own, you know, quirks and differences between us.
Great place to leave the webinar, I think. Individual differences and quirks. Thank you
Yes.
very much, everyone, for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Ramandeep. We've made you work really hard this week. Thank you. I hope those resources are helpful. And if you wish to use the food and symptom diary over the next 7 days, we'll be back with you next Monday. And if you'd like to share anything, you can, or ask any questions that have come up from that exercise. It's a really helpful one just to have a look at where you are, and where you can move to. What are those small changes you can make? Where is your mindset at? Hopefully you can, you know, really give it some thought this week. But Happy New Year. We're so happy to see you all. It's been a huge group today. And yeah, we are really grateful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for those hearts and thumbs up. We're really grateful to be here.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, very much. And just remember, be kind, one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourselves. Just pick off that first goal and make it something that you can achieve and celebrate it. Celebrate it with us when you achieve it. Let us know.
yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.